Welcome to a special edition of On the Pen, where we are going to cover some very interesting real world data that bolsters the importance of accessibility to great telemedicine platforms when it comes to the treatment of obesity. But before we get started, I should let you know that this data comes from a company called Row. If you've watched On the Pen at all, you know that Row is actually a sponsor of our podcast and of our live show that happens every Thursday night. So I thought I'd let you know that at the outset if you're new here, just so you know that they are a partner here. But that actually has very little reason with the fact that I'm doing this video today. This video I'm doing actually is because the data is extremely compelling, and there is a growing narrative, especially among some in the medical community, that large telehealth platforms cannot adequately serve patients living with the disease of obesity. I think the data that you're going to see here today is pretty compelling and paints a case that actually not only can large telemedicine platforms that are appropriately leveraging medicine and technology help patients living with obesity, they may actually be able to help them achieve superior results. So let's take a look at this, and everything that I'm reading here for you is available at onthepen.com, where we have a whole write-up on this. We have links to the data, all that. If you're not over at onthepen.com, please jump over there. At the bottom of each page is a place where you can sign up for email alerts and just get familiar with all the latest breaking news in GLP-1. OnThePen.com has really become an industry leader for inside information on what's going on in the world of GLP-1s. We always try to take all the data that's out there for the medical community, data that's out there for the investor community, and bring it to you, the patient, so that you can make more informed decisions with your medical providing team. As you know, if you've been following this channel, obesity remains one of the most urgent public health challenges in the United States, contributing to a range of chronic conditions, including heart disease, diabetes, cancer. None of that is news to you if you've been following On the Pen. We're also keenly aware that the rise of GLP-1 medications like semaglutide has marked a turning point in the treatment of obesity, offering a safe and effective tool for helping patients achieve significant weight loss. At the same time, telehealth platforms have emerged as a lifeline for patients seeking access to these groundbreaking treatments. A strong majority in our community have been beneficiaries of services like the ones that Row offers and the medications that those platforms offer. And despite the promise of telehealth and democratizing obesity care, a common misperception persists. A common misperception gets spewed out all over the place, and that's that big telehealth companies cannot provide the same quality of care as traditional brick and mortar clinics. However, compelling new data from our partners at Row and their Row Body membership contrasted with some really interesting news that dropped just yesterday on the SURMOUNT 5 trial and dismantles this narrative and highlights the transformative potential of telehealth in addressing obesity at scale, a scale that I would argue only companies like Row can help us to achieve. Row's one-year weight loss outcomes. So let's take a look at the data. Row's internal study analyzed one-year weight loss outcomes among 475 randomly selected body members treated with branded semaglutide. So when we say branded semaglutide, we're not talking about compound, we're talking about Ozempic or Wegovy, the branded versions. The results are striking. On average, members lost 15.8% of their body weight over the course of a year. These outcomes are consistent with the weight loss observed in the Step 1 clinical trial, and it demonstrates that virtual care can deliver results comparable to controlled clinical settings. This data breaks the status quo of real-world studies that real-world expectations should never or can never live up to clinical trial data. It underscores the effectiveness of combining GLP-1 medications with personalized, high-quality telehealth care. By tracking patient progress through the remote weight monitoring, behavioral counsel, and clinical follow-up, Row ensures that members receive holistic, patient-centered treatment. And so just amazing, 15.8% body weight. And that was over 52 weeks. Now, we're going to get into some more interesting data down the line about some trials that have come out recently that have shown a few different results. So let's talk a little bit about the other part of this study, the metabolic health study. Rowe also conducted a metabolic lab study with over 1,000 body members who had completed baseline lab tests and spent a year on semaglutide maintenance dose. Among 131 patients who actually completed all the follow-up lab tests, significant clinical improvements were observed in key biomarkers such as HbA1c, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. For example, patients achieved meaningful shifts in these values, moving from high to normal ranges associated with reduced risks of chronic disease. The dual success of weight loss and improved metabolic health demonstrates that virtual care platforms like Rowe are not only effective, but also uniquely positioned to provide accessible data-driven management. Now, let's just pause and let that information sink in for a minute. If large telehealth platforms are incapable of delivering quality obesity care, why is it that we saw a track of 52 weeks that would likely exceed the select trials? Why is it that we're seeing key markers in cholesterol, in triglycerides, in a lowering of H1C, all reducing? All of these things achieved in the real world. These are actual Rowe patients. Now let's take a look at the SURMOUNT-5 trial and kind of contrast some of this data, because the SURMOUNT-5 trial dropped yesterday. That was a head-to-head study with Zepbound, which is Eli Lilly's product, and Wegovy, which is Novo Nordisk's product. So Wegovy, there was a cohort of the 700 patients in this clinical trial, about half that were on Wegovy. And these patients, unlike the Rowe study that we just talked about, these patients were on Wegovy for 72 weeks in this trial. Over that 72 weeks, patients achieved an average total body weight loss on Wegovy of 13.7%, or a full 2% lower than what patients achieved on the same drug in 52 weeks in the Rowe data. Let that sink in. This is a remarkable finding, as real-world results often fall short of the clinical trial. So you have clinical trial data. In the real world, you can usually expect that it's not quite as tightly controlled. The titration schedules are different. Patients are different. Situations, scarcity of medicine. And we know that we've dealt with that with these branded medications over that period of time. Typically, you don't even see as good of results as you see in the clinical trials. But here, we're actually seeing Rowe outperform the most recent data that we have from Wegovy from the SURMOUNT trials. Now, you could definitely make an argument the SURMOUNT trials were an Eli Lilly trial. They may have been designed to show less weight, but I think at the end of the day, 72 weeks, you would have thought that patients on a high dose of Wegovy would have at least achieved the same results as we saw in the Rowe trial, but we didn't. And the Rowe trial doesn't even necessarily indicate that patients were on the highest dose, and perhaps that's part of it. These results challenge these preconceived notions about telehealth capacity to deliver high-quality obesity treatment and highlight the potential of combining GLP-1 medications with innovative care models that really leverage the best of what medicine and technology have to offer. And for my money, nobody's doing it better than Rowe. Just an amazing team of people. They're incredibly smart people that understand technology inside and out, understand medicine inside and out, and are really blending these worlds to deliver a high quality of a patient experience. And that is certainly reflected in these numbers. So let's talk about telehealth in general, because this isn't just a Rowe infomercial. This is a infomercial for telehealth, because if we're going to treat 100 million people in the United States and 1 billion people worldwide, companies like Rowe have to step up to the plate. Companies like Roe have to be able to learn to deliver high quality obesity care. It isn't a matter of whether they can, it is a fact that they have to if we're going to address this problem appropriately. So let's talk about accessibility. Telehealth eliminates geographic and logistical barriers. It allows patients in rural areas and underserved areas to access the same high quality care that somebody in a city with many options and much more accessibility, the same type of care that they're able to offer. And it offers a personalization at scale. Platforms like Roe and their Roe Body program and their Roe app use technology to track your individual progress, monitor your side effects, and adjust care plans, which ensure that every patient receives tailored treatment. Affordability would be the last piece, because with virtual platforms, the cost of accessing care is often lower than in traditional settings, which make GLP-1 treatments more accessible to a broader population. And I would also add to that when you have a company like Roe, who is servicing thousands of patients on these medications, when you talk about accessibility to the branded medications, you have to have the aptitude and the resources to fight the insurance companies for coverage. And when Roe is doing this to the tune of thousands a day, or you could fill in the blank with any telehealth platform, when they're doing this at scale, they learn to be very good at it and very efficient at it. How many of you have ever gone to your primary care physician and your primary care physician wasn't successful at fighting your prior authorization, or simply did not have the time to do it in a timely manner? That's where these telehealth platforms really stand out from the crowd when we're talking about obesity care. We're also going to challenge the false narrative here, because the misconception that telehealth cannot adequately treat obesity ignores the wealth of real-world evidence, like the aforementioned data that we talked about from Roe. It demonstrates that telehealth, when appropriately leveraging technology and healthcare access, gets paired with GLP-1 medications, amazing things can happen for patients. Just amazing things can happen for patients. It is so, so exciting to be sort of at the forefront advising Roe on this on behalf of the community. Beyond just the weight loss, telehealth platforms are helping patients reclaim their health. We always talk about getting your life back. You're just getting your life back with proper treatment for your obesity. And that is one of the things that most excites me. So if you found this video helpful, if you found anything that we talked about interesting or useful for somebody else, please consider sharing this with them. Consider hitting the like button, the thumbs up button. That helps other people see it. We have a weekly show that happens every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Happens live here on YouTube. You can also catch us on the other social media platforms as well. We also have a podcast that drops every Tuesday on OnThePen, the Weekly Dose. The live show and the podcast are sponsored by Roe, who brought us this amazing information today. So thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at OnThePen. I couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't do it without you. You are the community, and you all are the reason that I do this every day. Until next time, thanks for being here, and we will catch you on the next one.